Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The best Trump rally held to date. Was it Melania's in Glen, Pennsylvania yesterday?
So dreamy.
Melania taking the gloves off, first with respect to her husband.
I do not always agree with the way he says things, but it is important to him that he speaks directly to the people he serves.
And
I would go to my happy place.
And when he does, and when she does, they have a clear position on locking down America.
We do not close down or hide in fear. We get to work to find real and lasting solutions. It's what sets us apart from any other country in the world. This is something that both political parties should support, encourage, and celebrate. No one should be promoting fear of real solutions for purely political ends.
Talking, of course, about the prospect of a COVID-19 vaccine, and she also addressed the Dems' divisive tactics with respect to their mischaracterization of the administration's response to the pandemic.
The Democrats have chosen to put their own agendas ahead of the American people's well-being. Instead, they attempt to create a divide on something that should be non-partisan and non-controversial, a divide that causes confusion and fear instead of hope and security. That is not the leadership. Let us also not forget what the Democrats chose to focus on when COVID-19 first came into our country. While the president was taking decisive action to keep the American people safe, the Democrats were wasting American taxpayer dollars in a sham impeachment.
Here.
They cared more about removing our elected president. Meanwhile, I watched Donald continue to work hard to keep people informed and calm, to protect our economy, and make hard and unpopular decisions to do all he could do to keep us all safe.
And finally on Sleepy Joe, Creepshow Joe's agenda. Remember, she is from Slovenia, which was formerly part of Yugoslavia after World War II. She knows something about living under a dictator. In Yugoslavia, it was Tito, you'll recall.
Joe Biden's policy and socialist agenda will only serve to destroy America and all that has been built in the past 4 years. We must keep Donald in the White House so he can finish what he started and our country can continue to flourish.
All right. The baby-faced assassin, Melania Trump, on the campaign trail. Very interesting. Now joining us, and this will be the only time he ever follows Melania Trump.
Yes.
We're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Are you wearing your green jacket like she had on yesterday?
Well, I do love Melania. I have to say that. And by the way, maybe she should be the if Donald Trump loses, maybe she should run in 2024. By the way, I am in your fine city. I am in Chicago today. And went to see if I could go out for dinner last night. Of course, your brilliant mayor is shutting down all the restaurants.
No, it's not her. It's Pritzker. She wants to keep them open because she said the real spread is at home, not at restaurants and bars. But the bars are closed. Yes.
So it's Pritzker who, I can't keep track of which, I just know the Democrats love the lockdown. They are the lockdown party. So it's very frustrating to be in the city and see the economic carnage. And then more Democratic calls for more shutdowns. But, look, I think this is an incredibly consequential election. I think that the idea that we're going to create all of these jobs with $4 trillion of higher taxes, with the destruction of the oil and gas industry, with the re-regulation of America, I think is a fantasy. And one other quick thing, the reason I'm in Chicago, Ann and Amy, is because Art Laffer and I are releasing a study this morning by the Heartland Institute that looks at the economic impact of the Pritzker tax. And we estimate, you guys sitting down, that 1 million additional residents of Illinois would leave the state over the next decade, on top of the 800,000 that probably will leave regardless, and that 500,000 jobs would be lost by this tax increase. 500,000 jobs in the state of Illinois. And finally, we estimate that real estate values would fall by about 10 to 12% because so many people would be leaving. Anybody with a house would see their housing value fall. Other than that, it's a great plan.
Yeah.
Oh, where do I?
Well,
Where do I cut? Where do I make the incision?
It's interesting because, of course, that is not going to be well known and not going to be inculcated into the minds and hearts of most Illinoisans. And I think it's better than 50-50 that the graduate state income tax passes. So I appreciate you quantifying it. But yeah, I think it's a close call.
I'm surprised you say that. I mean, I actually, just from talking to some of my liberal friends here, and even some of my liberal relatives, they're going to vote for Biden. But even they, pretty liberal, are like, hey, another tax increase? I mean, people should look at our study. I'm going to send it over to you, Don. I mean, Illinois already ranks 46th worst out of 50 states in competitiveness. So you wouldn't think things could possibly get worse. But with this, tax increase, you go from 46th to 49th. Only New York State would have a more hostile environment for businesses and entrepreneurs than Illinois.
I guess. I guess I've just watched what the Illinois electorate has done for the last, say, 30 years, and so I don't know. Call me crazy. I don't like to put my money on what the Illinois electorate's going to do in the face of Class envy politics that they seem to enjoy.
But it truly is. I mean, it truly is the death knell for the state. It really is. I mean, it'll be so destructive. And by the way, the people who will be hurt the most are not the rich people like Pritzker, the billionaires like Pritzker. It's going to be people at the bottom. Who are the first people that are laid off in a recession? They're the people at the bottom.
Right. The ones that are going to be laid off come Thursday night, when they lose their job. 120,000 people who work in the restaurant industry have lost their jobs because 5,000 restaurants in Illinois have closed. And Pritzker thinks, we'll just shut it down for 2 weeks. But the restaurant owners are like, I can't go through this again. And 2 weeks, that'll turn into 2 months.
Of course it will. And, the thing is that, first of all, the evidence is so crystal clear. It's one thing to shut down restaurants at the beginning of the pandemic and to shut down stores. But now we have 9 months of evidence. Everyone agrees. I mean, the evidence is crystal clear that the lockdowns don't work. By the way, Dan and Amy, even the World Health Organization, which is hardly a conservative bastion of pro-business, says that lockdowns don't work. And yet, these politicians keep locking things down. Now, look, my opinion is I don't actually like to go indoors to restaurants, and I make sure if I go to a restaurant that there is social distancing, that there's good, there's clean air and things like that. But the idea that why can't people make up their own decisions? Why do politicians have to tell us what we can and can't do?
Nick,
really?
Well, I mean, these are rhetorical questions. I don't know. They're
it's rhetorical.
It's exhausting. I mean, it's exhausting to pound away on the same
they
points.
They treat us like we're 12-year-olds.
Yep.
We're adults. We can make our own decision. I was watching the news last night. One of the Chicago said, they said, well, we have to keep the schools closed because we have to care about our grandparents. I'm like, well, wait a minute. How is it morally just, to deprive an 8-year-old of an education? If seniors need to be quarantined, quarantine them.
Right.
But don't impose all these costs on 8, 9, and 12-year-olds. It's just craziness.
80% of Illinoisans, 84% to be precise, believe that the state's on the wrong track. 60% have contemplated leaving in the last year. That's according to an NPR survey. And
well, why do they keep voting this way?
Well, that's no. You don't get to do that. I was going to ask you. You're an Illinoisan. You tell me. Me what's not getting through.
So I got to tell you. So I gave a speech last night. On our study, and people were asking me that same question. I said, look, I lived in New York during the period when Rudy Giuliani was mayor, and leadership matters so much. And I didn't agree with everything Rudy did, but I got to tell you, every time you walked into you would go into Manhattan, you could see week by week by week the improvement, the reduced crime, the reduced graffiti, the reduced homeless people, the increase in business activity. You could just see it leadership matters. All it takes for Illinois is to elect someone who is pro-business, pro-enterprise, pro-common sense. And I think, look, I've said this 1,000 times before. I think Chicago is one of the 10 greatest cities in the world. I love Chicago, and it breaks my heart to be downtown right now and see that it's completely comatose. But it's leadership, and it matters. And I still think, by the way, one other quick thing, Dan and Amy, you look over the last 50 years, the Illinois income tax, 1961, I think, was the year when the income tax came into being in Illinois.
No,
it was passed by a Republican.
It was Ogilvy. It was Ogilvy, and it was after
Ogilvy,
and it was kept after the Constitutional Convention in 70. Yeah.
70. So, but Ogilvy, I seem to recall, was a Republican.
Yeah, right. Yes, correct.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans are the ones who are just as bad as the Democrats.
Well, now you're getting to something. Now you're getting to something, aren't you? In the face of no opposition, the ruling party wins, and that's exactly why something that is so silly and so destructive as the graduated state income tax, I think, has a better than 50% chance of passing.
I am okay, Amy. I am going to bet Dan a dinner at some restaurant in Chicago when it's open up.
All right, we'll go to Kai's in Glendale Heights because that's will be the only one left open by the time this election comes.
All right, Amy, do you think it's going to pass or fail?
I think it's going to fail.
Me too. I'm with you, Amy. I have
eternal optimists.
For the voters of Chicago and Illinois, they're going to turn down the biggest.
Yes.
What's the worst time, too, to propose this, too? I mean, no, tens of thousands of people are out of their jobs. It's the worst time.
Yeah.
Time means everything.
Amy,
Steve,
I've always had so much respect for your
Oh, gosh.
Sometimes I wonder about Dan. By the way,
Steve,
last night, I got to tell you, I was at this big event, and everybody loves Dan and Amy. Everybody listens to you every morning, so it's just an honor to be on your show. Everybody goes, you're the guy on the Dan and Amy
I mean,
show.
seriously, you come on this show, and it's just bootlicking first the Chicago electorate, then the two of us.
Yeah.
Come on. Have some self-respect, for God's sakes. All right, so this study gets released today.
Next time we talk, we will know whether this thing passed, right?
Yes, this study, though, your study with Laffer gets released today.
Heartland Institute.
Heartland Institute. All right, great organization, and we'll look forward to that. Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, Trumponomics author. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, bye.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
News, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Now that you're spending more time around the house, have you noticed that maybe a few things are needy?
Call Crumweedy!
Crumweedy Home Pros. There's no better investment than your home, and Crumweedy is open, doing proposals and booking jobs. Get a virtual consultation. It's easy, and we'll show you everything about your project from the comfort of your home. How it looks, what it costs, everything. This is a great time to
call Crumweedy!
Siding, windows, and roofs. All with no money down, no payments, and no interest for 18 months. And there's more. Half-price installation on siding, windows, and roofs.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Call the exterior experts, Crumweedy, Mark Olson, and Greg Olson of Crumweedy, a third-generation family business that's been doing Chicagoland exteriors now since 1953. It's all about